Johnson going to the sideline. Pick six. Tommy Hill, the short run to the house. Look at that. Handoff. Touchdown, his third.
What's up, fellas? It's Monday, Cornhusker Connection live on Twitter, Twitch. We have a Twitch channel now, by the way. I just put that together last week. So we're on Twitch, on the Big TTY, YouTube, of course. Clips coming out through the week. We're officially back. How we doing, fellas?
Fantastic. Whoa. I'm way more fantasticer than you are.
Dude, shut.
You guys got a kiss now. Those are the rules. Well, spring is officially here. Oddly, a lot to talk about. Basketball season wrapped up last night. Nebraska were one of the most successful basketball programs in the month of April in the country. So, shout out, Go Big Red. Let me just start with this. How much of The Crown did you guys actually watch?
A good amount.
I watched some of the game yesterday, like the last 8 to 10 minutes, and then the first like 5, and then I watched a good amount of the Boise State game, Boise State, Nebraska, and then that's about it.
All right, Tyler Ball watcher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other tournament's so boring. You got to figure out some good basketball to watch.
Thanks.
I forgot where I was going to go with that. But Nebraska wins the crown. What?
How much did you watch?
Not as much. Not as much. I got to see clips on Twitter, so that's all that really matters. I get a lot of my information from, but Nebraska wins the crown. I'm happy about it. I feel like most Husker fans are happy about it. I also see a lot of pointing and laughing from teams who did not win a game in April. I think you guys can put those pieces together. Do you feel better about Nebraska basketball today than you did at any point in this season?
No. Just because they started 12-2 and like they had whooped Creighton. It was looking like we were going to be serious contenders in the Big Ten, and then 2 serious droughts really derailed that. And I don't know. It was fun for like the first 40 days, and then it all went to shit after that.
Now, is it just me, or did their season, and the season as a whole, go oddly similar to how the football season went? Hot start, god-awful drought. Somehow at the end, it all kind of works out.
Yeah. And I think it was, obviously, I think you'd rather be in the NCAA tournament, but like the next best thing would be to be in this tournament and win the whole thing and have as many eyes on your program, like as far as the national landscape, which back-to-back 21 seasons for Fred should, let people in and around the program know, like, hey, we need to start spending, to get some better players in here and, ramp up. Become a basketball school.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I learned the most this year is how far behind Nebraska is spending-wise. And I guess, and I asked you this off air, but does it make you feel better or worse that Nebraska isn't spending a lot? Because on one hand, it's not like they are spending a lot and not making the tournaments, but there's also frustration, like, why aren't we spending as much as like a middle-of-the-road Big Ten team?
I would say it frustrates me more because you look at the last 2 years, Fred Hoiberg with like one of the smallest budgets in the Big Ten has won 44 games, which hasn't happened in 30 years essentially at Nebraska. It's like I wonder if we're even in the top 5 or 6 in the Big Ten, where this program would be at right now. Like maybe a Sweet 16, maybe better. He made the tournament last year, so if we could have added 2 or 3 key pieces to that team, who knows?
I guess also how, because it's not like they didn't get any transfers last year. Did they just not work out, or how did those
I
acquisitions age?
So I think we missed like our A-listers, and we ended up with some B and C guys that were on our big board. So like Max was an A-lister, Bryce Williams was an A-lister, but like guys like Gavin Griffiths from Rutgers, who hit the transfer portal again today, essentially didn't see the floor all year. Braxton Mia, the big guy, didn't really pan out. And Buchten Gel, as you saw, going through some crazy struggles. It was a tough time to be a new addition to the Nebraska basketball team.
And now, as a basketball fan, is it really similar to the college football transfer portal, where there's like a handful of really coveted guys? I feel like there's so many more players to keep track of, just because there's so many more basketball teams. Am I crazy for that? Am I out of touch?
No, well, FBS for football, there's only 120 some teams. In college basketball, there's 360. So yeah, there's way more.
But there's also 105 people on a football roster.
True, but how many of those actually make a difference in play?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Some highlights of the season: Bryce Williams breaks the all-time season scoring record. That's a big deal, isn't it? That sounds like a big deal.
I mean, best season, I would argue, in Nebraska basketball history by any one guy.
What does this team
Who
look
had it
like if
before?
Bryce? That's a good question.
What was that?
Who had the scoring title before?
James Palmer Jr.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
17.
Oh, so not that long ago.
No.
Yeah, when he said
I
that
don't
name,
remember him at all.
it didn't register whatsoever
Yeah.
with me. So I'm like, that could have been 1974 for all I know.
That's
No,
exactly
it
what I
was
was thinking.
probably the last time we were really competitive. It was like the end of the Miles era, right before Hoiberg.
Now, now I feel like I'm just interviewing Brooke to educate myself on basketball, which is fine. I love this segment. What went wrong with Tim Miles? It seemed like he kind of had some runs.
Well, solid coach, but just wasn't winning enough. Just too many down years. Like he went to the NCAA tournament once and got bounced by Baylor. I mean, that was a good Baylor team. They beat Creighton by 40 in the next round, and I think went to the Elite Eight that year. But, going to the tournament once in I forget how long he was there, close to 10 years, just isn't going to cut it. So.
And so now looking towards next year, Nebraska's already been pretty active in the transfer portal. Price Sandfort from Iowa comes in, was probably going to come to Nebraska if his brother didn't go to Eastern Iowa. Went to Eastern Iowa, immediately regrets it. Thanks God for giving him a second chance at salvation here. Can you tell me about him and if that's a big deal or not?
Seems like one of the best young shooters in the country for sure. He, in 24 minutes, he averaged like 9 points a game at Iowa. So you think another year of experience and more minutes per game, that probably gets up closer to like 14, 15 a game, and is a knockdown shooter. long, lengthy guy like Hoiberg likes. So fits the system well for sure.
So what's up with all of the Nebraska teams going after these Iowa guys?
Well, I mean, Iowa had a lot of shooting, and I mean, Iowa would have been better if that center who committed to Creighton didn't go down early in the year. So they had some injuries they kind of dealt with, but
Gotcha.
a lot of solid pieces for sure they had.
Yeah, so I mean, both Nebraska and Creighton getting quite a bit of Eastern Iowa players. Do you think it's just like a culture thing? Like they just fucking hate being in Iowa that much that they'd rather be in Nebraska instead? And whether it's Omaha, Lincoln, won't be too long
No,
before
I
I'm sure
think
Omaha gets a Iowa transfer.
I think it's a combination of McCaffrey getting fired and Ben McCollum wanting his own guys in there because you like as you notice, there's like very few holdovers. Like everybody from this year's roster essentially left. So it sounds like McCollum is blowing it up and wants to do his own thing. So
Is that going to work? Because I know it worked obviously very well going from Northwest Missouri State to Drake, but also bringing because I know they got one really good transfer from Drake coming to Iowa, but going from that level in basketball, does it work the same way that like Kurt Snetti worked great at Indiana, or like is there hope?
well, from everything I know about him is I think Ben McCollum is like a sleeping giant. He won his conference like 12 years in a row at Northwest Missouri State. Very like documented what he did this year at Drake. Lost what 4 games all year and won a game in the NCAA tournament with essentially a bunch of D2 guys. So now you're giving him Power 5 resources and a bigger platform. I mean, I hope I'm wrong because he's at Iowa now, but maybe one of, if not the best coach in the country at the stage right now.
So I'm really trying to talk myself off the ledge here because I'm on the same boat with you. I almost, and it's a bummer because I think I did so much pointing and laughing when DeVries went to Indiana instead of Iowa, punked them out a little bit, just for them to end up with probably a better coach at the end. But we talked about how important spending money is. Iowa's not going to spend big time basketball money.
I'm not sure, but I don't think McCollum would take the job if they weren't going to want to be competitive. So I can't imagine it'll be like as bad as Nebraska was this year as far as money goes.
I mean, you're probably right. They obviously came up with a plan, and there's obviously something attractive about Iowa City, and that's where he's from. So there's also some hometown strings being pulled, but like it's just never. No, Iowa doesn't have any money. They don't spend a whole lot of NIL in football. They gave a wrestler $1 million, sure, and I would imagine women's basketball is a much higher focus than most other places in America. I mean, a place like Iowa doesn't seem like they have that kind of money to just be like, oh yeah, now we're gonna, invest $10 million into a basketball roster.
Well, McCaffrey had a pretty deep roster of guys that should have got paid. So obviously they have some. I don't know if it's like, top 20 in the country, but enough to be competitive.
That's a bummer. Whatever. Basketball doesn't matter to me. So that works out. Because I would much rather them hit a home run with a basketball coach than a men's football coach. I didn't have to put men's in front of football. I understand that now.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, that I always much more educated on Nebraska basketball, so that's great. And Nebraska football news. Speaking of big time money getters, Hardley Gilmore IV no longer with the team. Lasted a whole 4 practices with Nebraska before eventually being asked to leave. it sucks because there's obviously a lot of people who talk very highly of him and very high ceiling. Was supposed to be the next guy up at Kentucky. Nebraska poaches him away along with his wide receiver coach and Nikhil Shorts. And it seemed like he was going to get some meaningful playing time this year in a very talented wide receiver room. And now all of a sudden he's gone. But overall, I feel like if there's an opportunity to set an example and get rid of a bad apple, I would much rather come from a guy in the wide receiver room than pretty much anywhere else on the football team.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I wish we had a better picture of like what happened, or I don't know. Maybe it's better that we don't know, and like Brandon said, we just get rid of a bad apple. But by all accounts, he was looking pretty good in the short time he was at Nebraska. So it sucks to lose a guy that would have made a difference for us. But like you said, bigger picture, better to get that out now than later.
It's really going to be interesting to see how fast, if any team picks him up.
Yeah.
And I know that doesn't tell you the severity because it could just be all these teams don't know what he did. But if they do and nobody picks him up, that'd be very telling to the severity of what happened is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because what happens next with him? He's obviously very talented, and obviously they're. I mean, I know it's the NFL, but the teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't care what you do off the field as long as you can run really fast.
Here we go.
Here we go. Yeah, it is telling because that's obviously been a huge point of emphasis for Nebraska in their offseason is to make sure that none of their guys get enough exposure to get poached. And now they're just kind of sending this guy out to the Wolves, out to the Night's Watch. And I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see how
bummer.
it goes.
It's a bummer, but I don't know. I'm trying to look for the bright side here, and I don't really see one just yet. I hope everything's all right with him. I guess I'll say that.
All right. Well, we got the spring game coming up, or the spring games. We're not exactly sure what they're calling it. Are you guys making a trip down to Lincoln at all?
Hell no.
Oh, before we go on, I do want to ask a question about the crown. So, do we want the crown to just crumble and it never happens again, and Nebraska's the only winner of the crown, or do we want it to be, or do we want it to be super super successful, but Nebraska never wins it again?
Listen, I could spin it with whatever happens to be a good thing for Nebraska. So, I mean, I don't know.
I do have
this
to
is
say,
hilarious. Either way.
If I'm a crown exec, what I do think is very much in the possibility is them moving the tournament up in the month, because the timing of it never made a whole lot of sense to me. And I don't think I'm the only one who feels that way. So it would be funny if Nebraska gets this crazy good April record and then they move the tournament up. So now it's cemented in history. But if I'm a Fox executive and like I was the one like beating the table for the crown and having a tournament like this, this is the best case scenario is Nebraska winning, just because with the fan base and everything. Like, can you imagine like a Boise State or an Arizona State and whoever they play, UCF, like that doesn't move the needle at all. So I don't think it would be pretty funny if it folded. But
I think if like a
UNLV
or somebody like that made it, I think Arizona's close enough that if they were in the tournament championship, I think that they would have traveled decently well since it's so close.
Nebraska fans still traveled pretty well, all things considering. But
yeah, well, they always do, and that's never really a question. Thankfully, we have good fans. But just to Brandon's point, I think if it were somebody local, I think it would have done pretty well too.
Yeah, and like going forward, I think I think the NCAA should do something about teams opting out of postseason tournaments because like it would be way better for all parties involved if like um who opted out? Well, you remember the year North Carolina opted out of all the tournaments, like the teams that
Yeah.
were on the edge of the NCAA tournament. Indiana, another big brand that probably would have moved the needle a little bit, but like I think it's just bad for college basketball when teams opt out where they're like, "Oh, we're too good for this." And
It doesn't
Nebraska
make
did it
sense
last year,
for,
but I was kind of annoyed at that too a little bit. It's
but it doesn't make sense for this tournament specifically because it's just to help get your players paid.
true.
Yeah,
So I don't
$300,000
know, unless you're
prize
going
helps a
through
bit.
like a coaching change or something like that. I get
Like
not wanting to go
Indiana
play in
was.
something like that, but I don't see any downside to playing in something like that. I guess the downside is you play against a bunch of subpar teams and you get bounced in the first round, I guess is the
But
only downside to that.
but like up until the last 2 or 3 years, that's literally what the NIT has been, where it's like um the teams that barely missed the tournament, like the power conference teams, normally either they squeak out a first round win against like a mid major or like they lose to a mid major. And like the one that sticks out in my mind was Robert Morris beat Kentucky in NIT. And like that was so sick for college basketball to see like a little school like that win. Obviously Kentucky probably didn't give a flying fuck, but like just because you're not having a great year doesn't mean like you're just allowed to not play games anymore. I feel like so.
Yeah,
I think that's stupid.
I agree.
And they're
Yeah, and I
like the
think it,
crown. They're giving direct incentive. Offering people cash if you win. So
and I feel like it's a very specific formula that Nebraska fit the bill on very well with having such like an older team who probably want to go out on a last ride and a team that ended the season kind of stinky. It kind of getting a little bit of fresh breath. And I mean they got to cut down a net and they got to come home with a trophy. Like that's not what anybody envisioned for this team when they were tripping on their feet down the stretch.
no, for sure not.
Rick, let me ask you this. Do you feel better as a Nebraska football fan or a Nebraska basketball fan today? Or I guess, did this crown tournament move the needle at all for you as far as like enthusiasm or momentum or anything like that?
I'll say this. Like originally, I didn't think it would, but like surprisingly, I am a little bit more happy than I thought I would. Um, I think the exposure and like Hoiberg getting over the 20 win mark again, like kind of puts the people with the big bucks on notice that like, hey, we have a really good coach. Like, if you give him the necessary resources, like, there's no reason we couldn't be in the tournament every year. So, um, hopefully, this helps with recruiting too. Like, I don't know in which like how like necessarily how much right away it would help, but like looks like those guys are having fun and Hoiberg knows what he's doing coaching wise.
Yeah, and there was a couple big games in there. Like we had to fight and call back into them. So that was nice to see the fight in that sense. And also seeing Bryce and Juwan get that last W in college was awesome. You could tell it meant a lot to them to win that. Which again is another reason why would you say no to something like that? It doesn't make sense. But
yeah, I mean that's what I don't get. And even if teams really don't want to be like participate necessarily, it's like I think they should still have to because I mean college basketball is a huge brand like sports
yeah,
and makes a lot of money. So if a team like Kentucky, using them as an example from the past, wants to go out there and not give their best effort against a mid major, then they're going to get exposed. And I think upsets are what make college basketball so great. So make those teams play.
Amen, brother.
Hell yeah.
Because to me, as a very, 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 very extremely casual basketball fan, it kind of gave off the same vibe as how Nebraska football ended their season. A bowl win's more significant than probably this crown tournament. I'll concede that off the bat, but it feels like something that the team took a lot of pride in, even though the season probably didn't go as well as they thought it could have. And it would have been, especially for Nebraska basketball, it would have been so easy for the team to just pack it up and yada, yada, yada. And as Tyler alluded to, there were some tough games along the way there that they could have absolutely just been like, all right, whatever, let's just go home. Let's enter the portal. Let's, wrap up the season. But I didn't see any of that throughout the season. And that's got to be encouraging.
And then you see a guy like Cale Jacobson from Ashland, Nebraska, who was a preferred walk-on, just get big minutes in this tournament and absolutely shine. He sat behind a bunch of these guys that transferred in and, waited his turn. And then he got his opportunity. And it's now like, going forward in the next year's picture, like, okay, we have a solid, guy off the bench who can be in the rotation. So in that sense, it's like he, like Cale Jacobson, made himself some money over this tournament, just playing so well and showcasing his ability. And how can you not root for that?
Why not us, man?
Why not us? Do you get the sense that Nebraska is actually going to start investing in basketball as they need to compete in this new landscape, or is it just kind of like we are a football school, we're going to invest in that? Volleyball is going to get a stupid amount of money. Men's basketball will never be it.
I think it depends on how big the crown banner is.
I think it's stupid.
I need a logo on the court to remind people.
I think it's stupid that people like say things like Nebraska should just fold every other program and focus on Nebraska or football and volleyball, because I mean the College World Series is right down the street, and that '06 team that made it, like if you look at highlights, that shit was electric with Jabba and all those guys, and with how many kids in state now that are going to high major programs, like basketball is a big deal here. And the women's team got a 5-star out of Elk North, Britt Prince, who's gonna overthrow Caitlin Clark here in 2 years. But
I mean, all she has to do is win one championship at one point. Shouldn't be that hard of a bar to clear.
I think all sports are cared about in Nebraska, but I would like to. I have a feeling that they're gonna dump more money into the basketball programs.
Yeah, and it's not like people aren't going to the games.
Exactly.
Well, that's the other thing is, Nebraska is top 10 in average attendance like every year. And it's like if they didn't want the basketball teams to be so good, why build a nice arena like the Vault? Like I don't get that.
The Vault is such a cool nickname for an arena, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, I'm right there with you. I want to see all Nebraska athletic programs thrive, and I think that's the vibe, especially with Troy Dannon at the helm. I mean, he was in Pennsylvania for the national championship wrestling tournament. He was flying back and forth between that and the Big Ten women's basketball tournament. He gets it, and I just hope that there is that level of investment, because it does seem like if there is a program that would get the short end of the stick, especially because college basketball is way more expensive than I thought it would be. I mean, guys like Sanford are getting $2 million. I mean, this is bonkers. BYU's handing out $7 million checks. This is a much different world than I had anticipated, because I would have figured, okay, well, a $5 million roster kind of puts you at par. Nope.
Yeah. I don't. If you didn't tell me that, I never would have known.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, Penn State's basketball programs had such a tough time getting people to go. They just announced like a couple weeks ago they're going to cut both basketball programs at the end of the year of 26.
Is that true?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So
That's crazy.
I mean, Nebraska has fans that willingly come and sell that shit out, and we don't want to. It just makes no sense to not give Hoiberg the resources going forward when there's other schools having way bigger problems than us.
Not true. Speaking of Hoiberg, was there any real worry that he was going to go to Texas A&M, or is that just a fugazi?
No, he has roots here, and like obviously he could have, but I get the sense he wants to be here. And do I think a call was placed to Hoiberg by old Trev Alberts? I bet there were some feelers being put out there to gauge his interest, but his grandpa coached here. He has a son on the team. I think he's right where he wants to be for now.
Also,
That's
it
what I
made no
thought,
sense
too.
for him to go to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, if
You get the
Indiana
sense
comes
that-
calling, that's fine. If
Yeah.
Villanova comes calling, whatever. Not Texas A&M.
You get the sense that he's not the biggest fan of Trev Alberts. So
No.
It doesn't seem like anybody's a big fan of Trev Alberts these days.
poor guy. Oh, I feel for him.
Oh, man. I
Fuck you.
Poor fucking cocksucker Benedict Alberts. What a
There he is.
What a-
There's our guy.
There it is. What a oh my gosh. I enjoy seeing Texas A&M's fans start to realize, like, but I mean, hey, you got to look at the profit and loss sheet, the P&L report, as I'm sure Tyler's familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
It's like all these tariffs are coming, and we got to really cut down on faculty. Got to obliterate the baseball program that just went to the national championship game for the first time ever. Don't worry, he's not going to go anywhere like our most bitter rival.
Talk about falling off a cliff.
No kidding. I mean, but then I don't know if you're talking about Texas A&M baseball. Then they come back and sweep Tennessee. I mean, college baseball is weird.
It is.
Dude, it makes no sense.
Speaking of college baseball, can somebody explain to me what Nebraska is going to be this year? Because I mean, first they're falling off a cliff, then they beat up on Oregon State and Lincoln, and then they kind of stumble against Rutgers. But
They took 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I guess more so the stumbling in Game 3 of that series. They stumbled.
We're stringing some series along here. It's good to see.
I think they're still finding themselves and finding the right 9 guys, and like their pitching staff is just so hit or miss, and it's been a lot more miss, but the bats have finally woken up. So if the pitching staff can just compete a little bit, I think they'll be okay. But my God, I mean, they beat Vanderbilt. They have a series win over Oregon State. I mean, they have some pretty solid wins. Like, they just got to start stringing them together and stop dropping these midweek games to Creighton and UNO.
And that's the crazy part to me is whatever. The Big Ten is what it is as a baseball conference now, especially with those West Coast teams. But like, you can't even take care of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. No shade to Nebraska at Omaha, but what are we doing here?
I think it's just the pitching staff. Really, I mean, there should be no reason we give up 11 runs to UNO. Creighton, I could see that a little bit more, but man, just not being competitive on the defensive side.
So 4-8 in the Big Ten leaves them in not great shape. This season's washed, right?
They could turn it around and sneak into a regional, but they would have to get going pretty quickly here.
There you go, Brooke.
Tyler's happy.
There you go. Got to run.
We're back.
Finally.
Oh, let's see here. Spring football underway in Lincoln. Very hush-hush scene. Obviously, a big emphasis on keeping the walls closed. I heard Sean Callahan talk about it. They usually have a scrimmage up until this point. Usually like practice 7. And they had a coaches clinic on campus. So then they decided not to do the scrimmage just to really limit the amount of eyeballs. This feels like a good thing to me. It feels like he knows he's got some special pieces that maybe we don't even know about yet. And he
The thing
doesn't
that-
want.
Just the way that we're acting, like I don't think that he's doing this just to be an asshole or a prick about this. It has to be like a real threat that these people are coming onto campus and trying to recruit guys for the next portal cycle. Like, it's bullshit.
Dude, it is crazy though. Like nowadays, who was it? Like the UTEP defensive end, Westmoreland, who I think he ended up at
Yeah.
Tulane. Like, to be fair, like he played against Nebraska, and I'm sure some coaches were like, "Wow, if that kid hits the portal, like that's a name to look out for." Like that's just how it happens sometimes. Like you don't necessarily need to see a guy get game reps. You just see a spring game highlight or word of mouth nowadays, and it's like kids are getting offers to like, hey, if you get in the portal, like we have an offer for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the way I think about it is that the spring game has been such a big deal in Lincoln and for the Nebraska football program. I guess one of the pillars of what makes this fan base and this spot so unique, for them to just be like, oh, we can't do this anymore after, one full, I guess that was the second spring game last year, but after seeing whoever he saw get calls and offers to jump in the portal, for them to shut that down, like that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think it probably started with Dylan, like seeing him throw it around in the spring game. And I would assume that people were already saying like, hey, if you don't like it there, you can always come here. We got a bag for you. But then it just kind of compounded because more people are watching for Dylan, and then they see, oh, that lineman looks really good, or ooh, that corner looks pretty sick. And then it just kind of extrapolates from there, and it's really
But
annoying.
it's happening. It's happening everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
it's just a Nebraska thing. It just it sucks that it's come to this. That's just really annoying to me.
Well, it's also not everybody gets the kind of eyeballs on their spring film like Nebraska does. Like that was an actually televised spring game.
Yep. Well, I think all of the Big Ten ones are because of the Big Ten network, but
Yeah.
It's if you're a Power 5 team, I think spring games being televised are going to be a thing of the past here in the next 2-3 years.
Do you think there's any weight to what Coach Deion Sanders had thrown out there with having sort of a joint practice held with other teams? I mean, I know the NCAA shot that down, but whatever the NCAA does is not going to get held up in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. They said that it was just there wasn't enough time to review the plan that they put in place. So it wasn't a no, it was a not right now kind of deal.
I actually kind of like the idea of practicing against another team, kind of how the NFL does in training camp. Instead of beating up on your own guys, and you get to see some different dudes and run your stuff on people who you don't practice against every day. So I think it's a great idea, but it'll probably be one of those things that takes time to actually get past.
I love it for schools like Syracuse and Colorado, like that. Those are the exact kind of schools I think would benefit the most from this. I don't know if I would love Nebraska doing it. I'm fragile enough as is. If we lost a spring scrimmage, like a 7-on-7 scrimmage against Iowa State, it would shut me down.
What?
Like all I have this time of year is like hope. Am I crazy for that?
Yes, yeah, you are.
I don't want to see Nebraska get pushed around
he's
and
dead on. Like you know how many so college basketball does the same thing where there's always like a closed door scrimmage in like October, and then like it's never televised and it's door shut, no fans. So like you get a bunch of these beat reporters like, oh, Kansas killed Creighton in the first half, and then Creighton won the second half by like 4. So do with that information what you will, and then people spiral about it. So I imagine the same thing but worse for football would happen.
Yeah, I think this fan base in particular, because I don't think I'm alone in that as far as this fan base goes. I don't think Colorado fans, I don't think they actually exist. In the spring, they're probably too busy skiing or doing cocaine or whatever they do in Boulder. But
Yeah,
especially this fan base would implode. Yeah,
like it would suck, sure, but would it be the end of the world? No, I don't think it would be.
It would be pretty fun. I feel like I had another point onto that, because and so circling back to tampering and transfer portal and whatnot, I heard someone throw out the fact that we don't have a for sure quarterback 2 at the moment, so that would be a prime opportunity if Jalen Gramstad went out there, because he's getting to the end of his playing career, and if somebody offered him $750,000 to come start, then that puts a huge vulnerability into the team. And so those are the kind of things that
I don't think he'd leave.
Sounds like it's going to be the Vanderbilt kid, at least as far as I know.
Oh yeah. I remember that guy. Damn, that was like one of our first signings. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah. Marcus. It's like Dalvia. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I want to keep saying Pavia, but that's not. That is the Vanderbilt guy. Yeah. Diego Pavia. That's
going to be him. I've seen some good clips of him.
Yeah.
Again, just clips.
Yeah.
But
it just makes me nervous because I also saw a quote from Jalen Gramstad. It's like, oh yeah, I still want to play in the NFL. I don't think you're in the right spot for that.
Get ready to learn coaching, buddy.
Yeah. And good on him. I mean, quarterbacks in Nebraska have done shockingly well as coaches.
Shout out, friend of the program, Zach Taylor.
Hell yeah.
One-time Chief Slayer. I can't believe how quickly I've turned on the Cincinnati Bengals. Just getting a look at how whiny their fans are.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you noticed how they drummed up this rivalry with the Chiefs in their head, because I am so unbothered by the Bengals. It's ridiculous.
And I get it. 2 years ago, that AFC Championship after, did they play in the AFC Championship after?
Yeah. No, not after they beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
It was just that 1 year.
I get it, but that was several years ago. And also, there's no way the Bengals are going to be competitive, right? Actually competitive.
They got a horrible defense, a traditionally horrible O-line. I don't know if it'll be better this year, but man, they got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
And T. Higgins signed up for $1 bazillion.
Yeah.
I don't. If you weren't Super Bowl contenders last year, now you have less money with the same core pieces. I don't see the vision.
Nope.
But Joe Burrow makes a pregame video look very cool, so they'll always have that. Always have pregame Joe.
That they will.
Let's see here. Odds and ends. OV breaks the record. I just wanted to talk about that. As the prime hockey show on this YouTube channel, the True Puck Knowers. I thought that was cool.
Electric.
Okay.
Tears.
Electric's probably a better way to put it.
Tears running down my face watching that.
Yeah. Puck is so sick, dude. I care so much.
What an ass.
So I asked a question in the group chat, and I didn't get a whole lot of discourse on it, but it would have kind of been a bummer if it was a rogue empty net goal that broke the record, right? How it happened was as perfect as it gets.
He said he didn't want that, so it wouldn't have happened that way.
Okay, so that was just not it.
At the end of that game, he could have had a hat trick to break the record, But when they had an empty net, Ovechkin did want to go back on the ice. So
Yeah.
Do you think that that's because of the record or because the lights got too bright for him? He's like, this is a big moment. The team's got to step up. I got to get out of the way.
next question. You're an idiot.
I'm just saying, if it's crunch time and the team's so desperate that they're pulling their goalie, I want the best players on the ice.
Don't make me treat you like Aaron Rodgers treated that one guy.
Aren't the
Hey,
Caps
are all these
pretty
questions
bad?
going to be this stupid or what?
Oh man. I mean, as a podcast full of teams with franchise level quarterbacks, I'm just so happy I don't have to think about Aaron Rodgers ever again.
Man, you make the playoffs 1 year and people start acting brand new.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we had a quarterback who made the playoffs.
Sure would
as a
be
rookie.
tough if
It's not-
old
it's
Bo
not-
Nix had a sophomore slump.
Dude, Yo Cubby's putting on the old Rangers, huh?
The Cubs are then. Give Kyle
Yeah.
Tucker $1 bajillion.
Why
A
not?
gazillion. A quintillion, if you will.
Might as well, man. Fuck it.
And
That
what else
guy
are you
is
gonna do?
the truth.
I mean, he's no Juan Soto, but yeah, he's pretty good.
So, I mean, he's just leading the NL in just about every batting category.
Yeah, he's doing
He's
great
not-
this year.
He's not
I'm very
Doughboy
happy.
Juan Soto.
See, that's the difference between you and I is I love you and I'm happy for you. You decide to denigrate.
I was joking.
So just I'll remember this.
I
I'll
was
remember
joking. I was
this.
joking.
Whenever Juan
joking.
Soto is batting 340 with 67 home runs, we'll revisit.
No.
We'll revisit. Hey, Brandon, put a pin in that.
You took a light jab at me, and I issued one back.
Yeah, right, dude. You came around like this. I'm like, hey, and you're like,
No, I poked him like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
no, I'm glad that that Kyle Tucker's working out. They just got to sign him.
Oh God.
I mean, you can't make that big of a trade and just let the guy walk after this season.
Yeah. I think they will end up paying him. But on the more pressing issues,
Mm-hmm.
how is Rockies camp treating you?
I watched one game and they won. Chris Bryant went 2 for 3. So they're all the way back. It brought his average up to like a 187. So we're trending upwards. God, that team's so fucking bad. But I did get a bit of taste. 'Cause like what I love about baseball is that like I don't know, like even if the team stinks, like you can like latch on to like young guys and like okay, this guy's doing good.
Yes.
Brenton Doyle's a dog. This Tovar at
Poglia?
shortstop looks awesome stuff. Dolander making his MLB debut.
Oh.
I was like, okay, I'm back in on baseball. They try to piss on my enthusiasm for baseball, but
Don't piss on my shoes and tell me it's raining.
that's right.
My mother's watching. Brooke, clean it up.
Sorry.
And that's the best way to describe what's like being a Rockies fan. Because never once have they brought up rebuild or retooling. You got back-to-back 100-loss seasons. If you're trying to win, then that's a problem.
You know, I heard a story about the reliever that does the dances. You know, I can't remember his name.
Oh, something yawn, right?
Yeah, I don't think he made the team.
So
the big league roster.
Apparently, he was in a semi-competitive baseball league, and they saw a video of him, and so they signed him to a contract. What a dumpster fucking franchise you got going.
Whoa.
It's so bad because it's not even like nationally known that how bad they are. Like the Athletics getting forcing themselves out of Oakland, or like the Chicago White Sox, who are historically bad. They're just back-to-back 100-loss team, and nobody gives a shit. They're just that bad.
But you guys did call up your number 3 and number 1 prospect. So you got Chase Dolander, and Veen. Is that his last name?
Oh, I
he's
didn't
an
know if they
outfielder.
called him up.
Yeah.
Who?
Because I know they
Yeah.
sent him down to AAA to start the year, but I feel like that was one of those service time manipulation deals.
Well, it's too early to manipulate service time, so they're struggling. They need to fill the seats, I guess.
They're gonna fill the seats anyways. Like, oh, it's a
Beautiful
beautiful
ballpark.
and
It's a beautiful
yeah,
ballpark.
that's what it is. Tickets are 75 cents a piece. We'll go.
Yeah, but you get in there and they charge you like $15 for a beer and $10 to breathe. So
Yeah. You ain't lying.
But
like,
say,
once
give me
you-
just a little bit of hope for the Rockies. Now I'm like, and then I sit back for 10 seconds and I'm like, this team's still fucking dog shit. Sorry, Tyler's mom.
it's essentially just a cover to get into the bar on the third day.
Yeah, because that's all they do. Everybody goes. It's packed up there, but nobody's in the seats.
And I don't blame them. Don't even blame them.
Everybody turns around and like, oh shit, there's a baseball game going on. Do you guys know that?
Typical Colorado athletic program, just playing for clicks.
I'm surprised Brandon didn't talk about the big fight that happened at that spring camp.
I didn't realize it was a fight. It was like a staged one, like Jake Paul.
I don't know, but Deion Sanders is in the background yelling at the offense because nobody jumped in to help the offensive lineman that was getting his ass kicked by the defense.
I can just picture him hobbling around practice on his three toes.
Yeah. I'm just surprised you didn't bring that up.
Breathing heavy, just looking at it.
All right, so we got a shot at a couple of shots at Iowa. Got a shot at Colorado. Are we missing on anyone on Hater Brandon's list? I don't think so.
You haven't said.
You only brought up Caitlin Clark once.
Shout out Paige Beckers, true GOAT, winning an actual championship.
Mm-hmm.
Now makes it 4 out of the 5 highest recruits in her class to win an actual championship. I'll let you figure out who that lone wolf is. There was. So I did retweet something that was I had the top 5 recruits and point out that every one of them won a national championship other than Caitlin Clark, and that trucker guy retweeted like spam, not even spam, just like angrily replied back to it. And since I retweeted it, I got mentioned in it. And so now he's been fighting in my mentions all day about Caitlin Clark with random Twitter burners. So that's been the highlight. Open Twitter,
and they're all you, aren't
notifications.
Yeah.
They're all your burners, aren't they?
Like I don't. There's gonna because like when I go at a jail trucker, like I got to make sure it goes for his throat. I was like, I gotta sit this one out because.
Sorry, babe, I can't go to work today. I gotta get on my burners and fight with this guy.
Yeah, I just gotta imagine Brandon's got like access to 40 burner accounts.
You're building an army together. Yeah, these are all in my mentions for some reason. Like that one, just for funsies.
Huh.
All right, fellas. Anything else you'd like to add before we head off?
What else you got to hate about?
I don't have anything to hate about. I got nothing
Come on,
but love
man.
in my heart.
Let your hate out.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm a big fan of the LeBron songs. I don't know if you guys have heard any of those, but big fan.
Get started on this.
Classics.
Big fan. But yeah, go Big Mets. 5 in a row.
How about the Rizzler?
Dude,
You're the Rizzler.
he needs to be at every game. He was sitting behind home plate, and him and his dad were just doing this the whole time.
And that's one thing I love about the Mets is that you watch a Yankees broadcast and it's all like Hollywood stars and actors, and then you go to the Mets broadcast, it's Joshua Block and the Rizzler.
See, that's who it was, Brooke.
And
the T-shirts in
in
the middle of a manic breakdown, just behind home plate.
Yeah, I was in a party with Brooke, and I was like, dude, this guy's there. I can't remember his name. And Brooke had no idea who I was talking about. I'm glad that you knew.
I know Now that Brandon said his whole name, you just said Josh, and I was like,
I couldn't remember his name. I could not
Yeah.
for the life of me remember.
but I do know who Joshua Block. It's the put the fries
Yeah.
in the bag.
Yeah, somebody recorded a video of them shouting it at him while you sit
I
behind
saw
home
that.
plate. Yeah.
Gets him every time.
He said, "I make more money than you." When he said that.
That's funny.
Every couple of weeks, I see a video of him just crashing out down the
Yeah.
streets of New York.
Oh, dude, it's like him crashing out and then him just getting hammered. No in between.
He has two days in one day. Crashing out, getting hammered.
It's a busy schedule.
What a life that might be.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Go Big Mets, go Big Broncos, go Big Red.
Go the Big Red.
Cubs.
Go Big Cubs.
Go Big Mets, go Big Broncos, go Big Red, go Big
Go Big
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Psych.
Whoa.
Psych.
Oh.